Welcome to BrainCandy Labs. I'm Ava Astro, and it's been fun hosting these sessions with amazing role models. Very excited to kick off today's session called I Want to Be Me When I Grow Up with our very own Lauren Sachs. First, some housekeeping. I invite you to turn on your cameras if you wish to get up close and personal with our speaker. You can switch your view from gallery view to speaker view at the top of your screen. All lines are muted so we don't get too much background noise. As our speaker shares with you, you will probably have questions. Put them in the chat and she'll get to it in a later section. Now let me introduce you to our speaker, Lauren Sachs. Lauren is a full-stack developer with a love for math and analytical problem solving. The combination of numerous leadership positions in extracurriculars and development experience on global teams has helped her develop superb conflict resolution, community building, and teamwork skills tailored to the world of engineering and computer science. She is on a constant drive for opportunities to learn and grow and is currently studying data science. Welcome, Lauren.
Hi, nice to see all of you. Am I good to get started? All right, awesome. First, I don't know if all of you have been on the computer for a while, but maybe give me a little stretch first. Can be a lot to be on the computer all day. Get up and moving, and we can do this afterwards too. But thank you all for joining. It's really exciting. It's actually 11 for me. I know some of us might be around the country. But yeah, I'm over here on the East Coast, coming into you from New Jersey. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about kind of my journey of finding out what I'm interested in within STEAM. So let's get started. By the end of today, I would like all of you to be able to say, I want to be me when I grow up. I think everyone can echo that. We all want everyone to be unique and pursue their individual passions, but like, how do you do that? What does it mean to be yourself? I'm not sure about that. Echo was listening to me, sorry about that. And how do you stay focused on that?
According to blogspot.com.
Apologies. Okay, I'm going to turn echo off. To help us understand a little bit more, I'm going to tell you my story. As we grow up, we all have some idea of what we want to be, and it gradually changes. In 5th grade, I wanted to be a pop star. Haven't gotten too far on that one. In 7th grade, I wanted to be a pediatrician. My freshman year of high school, I wanted to be an engineer. These ideas of what we want to be tend to change as we get more information about careers. Representation can start to shape where we see ourselves. We see which jobs our friends' parents have or our parents have. Within school, we start to understand which subjects connect to certain professions. And then we use that information to figure out what we want to focus on and study in college and then go on into a career. I loved English. I would read Hemingway in my free time, which, you know, outs me as a nerd, which there's nothing wrong with that. I would talk to my English teachers about it after I had read it. You know, we would meet in the hallways and I would share ideas with them. Creative writing was my favorite, but I would get absorbed researching and refining my essays. I loved environmental science. It combined my love for the outdoors with everything I was learning in physics and chemistry. And of course, I wanted to do my part to help keep our Earth healthy. Most of all, I loved math. Again, bit of a nerd. My freshman year of high school, I self-studied for the Calc 1 exam. And by junior year, I was taking multivariable calculus and differential equations. I always did my math homework first. I even used my free period senior year to be a teacher's assistant for a calc class. Something about the challenges that I faced and the skills that I was using really resonated with me. So when it came time to decide what college programs I would apply to, I applied to computer science. What? There's a disconnect there. My junior year, I took AP Computer Science, and I liked it, but really I just liked the teacher. I had no desire to try anything outside of class like I did for the other classes I mentioned, and I had to pay really close attention in class to keep up with what was going on. So why did I decide to study it? When looking at careers, I was really lucky to see many successful women I could identify with. At the time, I started to see a lot of women, specifically in computer science. And boy, were they cool. They had high-paying careers, lots of respect, and they were role models for girls everywhere like me and you. I wanted to be that. However, somewhere along the way, that disconnect happened. I made a mistake, whether I knew it or not. I started to decide what I wanted to be based on what I could become, not on what I was. That may sound kind of weird, so I'll explain it a little bit more. I wanted to be these women, but I had no idea what their work looked like. The little exposure I had to coding, I didn't quite like, and I didn't know any women who were developers. My desire to choose computer science had nothing to do with my own interests and everything to do with the idea of a perfect, successful career. We all want that. A woman defying the gender stereotype and shattering the glass ceiling, amazing job prospects, and a high salary. All of these are wonderful things to consider. None of them are bad things. But when I looked at these women, I said, I want to be her when I grow up. It had nothing to do with me. I'll tell you right now, you will never reach your full potential doing something you don't love. When I got into college, I dreaded my classes. Oh my goodness, I did not want to go. I got really anxious about looking for internships. I had to psych myself up to even open my resume to edit it, which is an important first step if you're going to be looking for internships. I committed to this dream, and there was so much pressure to keep going, so I did. Instead of acknowledging that I didn't like it and changing majors or searching for something that I really loved within it, I just powered through. I graduated in 3 years, which wasn't easy, but when I got out, I couldn't think of any reason that someone would hire me as a developer. The job search was really, really draining. I didn't know how to tell people that I was the person that they should hire because I wasn't in love with what I was doing. Of course, you'll feel incompetent in a field you don't enjoy surrounded by people who do. And it's really easy to fall behind when you don't know why you're there. I don't regret learning how to code at all. The cool thing about STEAM is that it encompasses such a wide variety of tools, right? We've got science, technology, engineering, art, mathematics. There's so many things underneath that, and I believe anyone can find a tool that will best serve them in their interests. My challenges weren't because I hated coding with everything in my body and I'll never be able to do it. Nope. But all my reasons for doing it were wrong. Now, I find patterns in human behavior fascinating. And it's actually really useful for, sales. How do you sell something to someone? Well, you have to understand why they would want it or what they would want. Turns out a combination of math and computer science, otherwise known as data science, does a really good job at helping those patterns. Now I'm pursuing my master's in data analytics in the fall, and I'm looking for jobs around that same line. The same anxiety that I used to feel when applying to jobs is totally replaced by a confidence that I didn't even know I had simply because I know why I'm there. I know why I want to do that, and I believe that I'll be great at it because I love it. We need more women in STEAM, but each and every one of those journeys into STEAM needs to begin with you. Do you love styling hair? Take a look at the chemistry behind dye, the hair dye. It could pique your interest. I actually had a babysitter who hated chemistry and hated science and all kinds of it until she went to cosmetology school. Are you an adrenaline junkie? Learn the physics that keeps you on the tracks while you're on a roller coaster. Do you really like designing things? Find out how you can use HTML and CSS to bring your visions to life for anyone around the world to see. Pursue STEAM, but pursue your version of STEAM. All of your career pursuits or learning pursuits should start with your own interests, not your role model's interests, not your teacher's interests, not your parents' interests, but yours. Because when you pursue something you love, you will succeed. You will achieve greatness. You will achieve this perfect, successful career that I was dreaming of and that a lot of people dream of because you love it. Again, sounds amazing, but how do you get there? Where do you start? Start now. I notice a lot of you guys are like pretty young. That's awesome. Start with other people too. It'll make the learning more fun. So grab some friends, take your common interests, and think of something you'd like to learn. Ask your teachers or your parents if they know someone who kind of works in that area. Look for materials and projects online to work on with your friends. Try things now so that you can start to figure out what your interests are. What do you want to spend your time on? What do you want to learn more about? Learn all of those things so that when you say, I want to be me when I grow up, you know what that means and you want to do it. So that's my story. And I think that all of us can kind of, start somewhere, right? So if you want to, you can, I think there are a bunch of questions. Oh boy.
Yes, Lauren, Ava and I are going to tag team and ask you some questions. And there's some great questions. And so first question is from our friend Angelina and said, what is your favorite part of math?
Oh gosh. Differential equations was my favorite class. When it comes to my favorite part, I think it was sort of like the brain processes that you had to go through kind of to fit the different puzzle pieces together. So trying to use a bunch of different functions to solve an equation. It's almost like the style of problem that was really exciting for me. So I loved calculus.
That's so fun. Another question is, what is your favorite computer feature?
Ooh, I think Linux subsystem for Windows, which sounds weird and boring, but basically, like Windows computers have trouble with certain applications, and there are other, Windows and Mac, there are different kinds of operating systems. So I can be a little lazy when it comes to certain things, but the subsystem makes it really easy for me to run all kinds of different code and learn about different things without having to get into the nitty-gritty of trying to set up a whole different subsystem. That's a lot of like really weird words. Basically like command line and being able to, I don't know, try out different things. But I think what that gets down to is like you can do so many different things with your computer and you can learn a lot of different things. And any tool that helps you learn more and helps make it easier, you don't have to do everything from scratch. I think that's really cool.
That's awesome. Ava, are there some fun questions that you like and you want to ask Lauren?
Nithala asked, do you think there might be a way to combine the career you are pursuing right now with some of your other interests, like nature, like you mentioned, and others?
I really hope so. And I think one of the cool things about data science, and I like that you mentioned nature, because that's actually one of the things that I really, really love. And my dream backup career would be studying environmental science and like living on top of a mountain. Um, but there are actually a lot of really cool things that you can do with data analytics when it comes to like observing patterns in the world. And these patterns can appear anywhere. So like if I can start to, use data and math and computer science to understand what's happening in our world and maybe how we can fix it, I think that would be really amazing, because everything is patterns. Our weather patterns.
Bodhi asked, who is your role model and what are some silver linings of computer science?
My role model. I think my role model is her name is Elena. She is was the first data scientist at FINRA, and she kind of like invented the position there. Data science wasn't really a thing before she got there. FINRA is, sorry, another question popped up. Good clarifying thing. FINRA is a research organization, from what I believe. I can, actually, I don't want to take too much time to search it, but what she figured out is as a product manager, which is the job of someone who understands why people want things and how you build something for what people want, right? If you're going to produce something, you need to make sure people are going to buy it. She figured out that you can use mathematics and computer science as well as people skills and understanding the people around you and how you communicate them. Two of those can work really well together and help you make super cool products and understand why people want those things. So I definitely admire her. Was there a follow-up question for that?
Yeah, it said, what are some silver linings of computer science?
Yeah, I think computer science teaches you how to think about like systems. And computer science is nice in that it's such a huge umbrella. So like I said, I don't regret learning it at all. I think computer science is really, really handy, but it's such a broad topic. If you don't know what you're getting into when you start it, then you can feel a little lost. So I think computer science, it's especially important to understand why you want to use it, because you can use it for so many things. So yeah.
Are there any more questions?
Yes, there's a question and it says, I really have a hard time with learning math, but after I figure it out, it is easy. Still don't like it though. Is data science a good career for me?
So data science is based in a little bit of math. And if you say, I don't like math, maybe you should figure out something that you do like. And sometimes it's not just the tool, but the application. So, math to figure out a certain value at a point in a graph, right? Some algebra is totally different than, math to understand a data set, or math to understand the physics of a roller coaster, right? They're all different kinds. But I think, if there is a subject that you really love, you can figure out how to use those tools. So I think the mistake that I made was, I don't really like computer science, but I guess I'll do it anyways. And if you don't like something, then, find something you do love, because history and English, there's so much that we can do on the internet to like inform people and talk to people about the things that they need to understand. So again, like STEAM is just a bunch of tools. Start on the things that you really, really love.
That was a good follow-up question too from Gabriella. She said, is there a difference between computer science and computer technology?
Yeah, I think, and I mean, I'm not an expert on any of this, but from what I understand, computer technology is kind of like the tools that you can use and maybe like building some of those things. And then computer science is a little bit more of a study. So, you know, science in itself is a study. So it's study of computers. And like the ways that you can use that. So maybe more high level things like machine learning and things like that would fall under computer science. But if you're talking about, you know, a webcam and how that webcam works, then that could be considered computer technology. That's my understanding.
Yeah, thank you, Lauren. Another question from Ella says, how did you solve a subject that was too difficult for you to learn, such as quadratic function? Quadratic, sorry.
Yeah, it's too difficult for you to learn. All right. So yeah, part of the, sometimes our challenge in school is that we run into things that are really challenging for us alone. And I think that that can be a big barrier for learning in general. I would say try to work with other students. Learning should not be just like an individual thing, right? Once you get out of school, you're never doing anything alone. So I would say, you know, try to learn with your friends, find out how they understand it, ask the teacher, you know, maybe spend a little bit of extra time working with other people and bouncing off ideas. Because doing things by yourself can be a little daunting and really discouraging. So I think one of the best ways to learn anything, whether you like the topic or not, is to do it with other people. And sometimes that'll make you figure out what parts of that you love, because those are the ones that you can take charge of. And then some of it, you know, you don't like so much, but someone else does. So I think that team efforts can make any learning a lot easier.
Yeah, that's a good word. I think it's really easy to kind of get in that silo of learning sometimes and really get in your head and kind of feel alone in that. And so I think that's such a good word of working with people. We kind of forget that we have teams and we have people around us, and that's what the workforce looks like. You have teams, you have people, you can ask for help. And so I wish I would have heard that when I was younger, of saying, oh, that's okay. You know, we're good to ask questions.
Yeah.
So,
and you don't all have to do the same work too, because we all have different skills, right? You're going into STEAM and everything has to start with you. Your efforts should not be trying to do everything the same as everyone else, because sometimes you'll be better at things and sometimes you'll struggle more with things. But you can learn a lot more by sharing responsibilities and balancing your strengths and your areas of improvement.
Yeah. You said something, and I think it was part of your story, but you were talking about your confidence. What was kind of a pivotal moment for you where you felt like, okay, here's my confidence, here's my sweet spot? What did that sound like, look like, feel like for you?
Yeah, I think part of it was understanding the kinds of problems that I wanted to solve and understanding that I could solve them. So I think a lot of development jobs were really scary for me because you know, I didn't like just regular application development. I didn't know why I would be doing it. Whereas a lot of these analytics positions I was looking at, the motive behind it became very clear to me. It was, you know, I'm using these tools to understand something bigger. And, you know, I think that that task made more sense to me and was really exciting for me. So I think the confidence came from being excited about something and knowing that when you're excited about it, you're going to do well at it.
Yeah. What sparked your interest for math and your love for math? Was it a teacher? Was it just a class? Was it, you know, what was that for you? If you can put your
I think-
finger on it.
Yeah, I think it's hard to pinpoint. It's funny because I remember kindergarten hating like the math section because it was like clocks, and clocks didn't make sense to me at the time. Um, but I think I was in a smaller school for 2 years, and then I came back into the public school, and I started like skipping years of math to like kind of get back up because of the smaller school, everyone was in the same class. Um, and I think that was when I started to understand that like it clicked for me. It made a lot of sense. Um, and then once it started to make sense, I could figure out the kinds of problems to solve. And I think calculus especially was really cool for me because I liked understanding why things work. Like, why is that object falling as fast as why does a feather fall slower? Like, how does gravity work? And like all those things are rooted in math and calculus. And, uh, you know, it explained things that I was curious about.
That's good. Emma says, what do you do as a full stack developer? How do you combine it with data analytics?
Yeah, great question. So full stack developer is a term used for someone building like kind of all layers of an application or a product. So it's a somewhat general term. A lot of the positions that I was looking at and the experience that I had was full stack web development, so building web applications. And that is different technologies, but you can kind of take data analytics and use it as a tool within your like your web application. So like, if you're using your email, right, that's a web application. Or if you're looking at a website, that's a web application. But within that website, you can have some summary of different data sets, and here are the current global weather patterns, and here's what that means in terms of the numbers, and that would be data analytics. So data analytics is kind of like a separate sort of product, but you can use it in a bunch of different places. So it's kind of more of a it's like a different sort of product than a web application.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what is the first thing you've created with code? I've done Minecraft. Is there more?
Oh yeah. Created Minecraft with code, or I think Minecraft has some like coding elements to it too. When I was I would say probably middle school, I started using some code in my like online blog. I would find different things and try and patch together the code to make something that I could use. And after that, it was probably, I did like a text version of Battleship, the game Battleship, where you kind of like shoot down. So like I wrote the code and then it would output in like kind of command line. So it was a lot of just like dashes and lines and like X's. It wasn't very pretty, but you could play Battleship, and that was pretty cool.
Another question that I have, word on the street, I've heard the term noble explorers. Our friend Cindy told us about that. Do you want to tell us a little bit more of what that is?
Yeah. So Noble Explorers kind of centers around this idea of like learning together and learning as a group. So it's project-based learning, and it's all online. It's students from all over the globe. So you have projects of like different lengths, and you enter with a team of students who are usually around your age, and then you have instructors who are a little bit older than you, but usually not that much. Sometimes they can be the same age as you, but it's kind of this idea of like, you teach everyone else, right? Like you have a project to do and you do all of your learning together. So instead of someone, giving you a bunch of things to memorize and then testing you on it, you have a task to accomplish. And based on what you want to do for that task, you learn certain things. So yeah, Noble Explorers is, it's sort of starting up. So we've got a couple of different classes in like web development and like some JavaScript. There's a really cool, what's it called? Like a text-based game. So you create like a maze with JavaScript code and you can kind of like navigate through the maze. So like different tasks that are fun and creative and collaborative.
Do you get to teach anything?
Yeah, so I have been in the process of creating the classes. So I sort of start with a project and then I teach it to a group, and then I figure out how I want to, give support to that project, make it as collaborative as possible, make it as interactive as possible. So I've been teaching some data visualization using JavaScript. One of the things we've been doing is like, when you want to start with some code, sometimes you don't have to code it all the way from the start. Like you can take some code and turn it into something that you like. So we've been doing that. I've taught the coding and web design classes, and I'm also taking a bunch of classes. We're coming out with some on communication, how to pitch ideas, leadership, things like that too. So a lot of soft skills as well.
Awesome. What sparked your interest with Noble Explorers? Like, where did that kind of come from? And
Yeah, it's actually my dad's company, and he started it because when I was in high school and I was working on a group project, he witnessed a very upset phone call that I had with some of my team members because we were on a project and we needed to get something done and nobody else really understood what was going on, and I was doing really well at the class and some people didn't really know like how to accomplish all the tasks, but we weren't learning from each other. I was just doing my own tasks and expecting them to do their tasks, and they were like, oh well, I guess I don't have to do as much. So he basically was like, oh, you're learning unteamwork. You're learning to not work in teams because, nobody else is motivated to do more work when they think that other people in their group can do their work, and the people who do all the work in the group don't want other people taking, credit for their work. So it's like if you have teamwork without soft skills and leadership and some of these other factors, then the teamwork doesn't really work. So it sort of started with that, and then how can you extend that to learning?
Lauren, that's really cool and really needed, I feel like, in this age group and all from elementary, middle school to high school. So that I'm really, really thankful for that's a resource for people. How can people find Noble Explorers?
Yeah, it's at nobleexplorers.com. So you can register on there. We have a couple of different classes coming up, a bunch of classes in the works as well. We have a intro to machine learning one that's actually on the back burner because there's some like tools that we need to work out in order to make it really collaborative. But that one should come out somewhat soon. But yeah, so nobleexplorers.com.
Awesome. Lauren, so good.
I have another question. It's what other careers are possible with mixing arts and tech? I also like arts and fashion.
Ooh. So my university actually has a whole major dedicated to arts and tech. And the cool thing about art is it starts to introduce this idea of like almost communication. Like when you're using art, like you want to say something, but you also want whoever's looking at that art to understand something or feel something. And those skills are really cool when we integrate them with tech, right? So whenever you're using an application or a product, you want to make sure that like you're enjoying the whole process. And so art is actually really handy in figuring out how to make any product like feel good for whoever's using it, right? Art comes into the design of our phones. Like art comes into the design of the websites, the banner behind you. An artist was definitely a huge part of. So art has so many uses in tech, especially now that artificial intelligence is coming around, and you know, it's starting to do more of the like nitty gritty tasks for us, and we can start to understand why humans are the way we are. And art is an incredible tool for that. I actually have my like watercoloring supplies over there in the corner. So art is amazing, and it's all expression, right? Yeah. HTML, yeah, front-end development is a huge part of art. So like how can you, when someone looks at a website, how do you get them to look at a certain section or want to click on something or feel good when they're on your website? So yeah, and fashion, I think fashion again is kind of this like expression of yourself, right? How can you let people around you know the message that you're trying to convey? And how can you combine different colors and textures and fabrics? And there's a lot of technology around, you know, designing clothing and, you know, making that process more efficient. So.
I have a YouTube channel, and I interviewed a girl named Neda Svetic, and she engineered some of the programming software for the autonomous driving for Tesla.
Wow.
And she also makes jackets and codes the robots to make them.
Yeah. It's all, you know, understanding why we want certain things and understanding the processes of how we do that. So yeah, that's really, really cool.
Angela also asked, do you have any outside jobs?
Any outside jobs? Outside jobs to my, so I have my current job at Noble Explorers, which is a couple of different tasks. I don't have any like formal jobs outside of that. I worked for a startup for a little bit on their data team. But other than that, I am mostly on Noble Explorers right now.
Gabriella asks, what university did you go to?
I went to Stevens Institute of Technology. It's right outside of New York City. Yeah, it was a cool place. I will say, I think the most important part of university is being excited about the program. I think, you know, if you want to pursue your learning, the college isn't going to change that all that much. I think it really starts with you. But I did enjoy the location of my college. And I liked that I had the opportunity to graduate early. So yeah, Stevens Institute of Technology.
I have a funny question from Nithala. She said, have you ever eaten wild mushrooms?
Wild mushrooms? I don't think so, but I would love to be able to. I love the outdoors, and I've recently gotten into like identifying plants and, you know, seeing which ones I can eat, which you have to be careful about. But yeah, I would love to go foraging for mushrooms actually. Yeah, if you can identify them. I definitely want to learn which mushrooms are which.
One last question as we round out our time. This was such a wonderful conversation and Yeah, Lauren, I'm just really thankful for your story. I'm thankful
Aw.
for just the way that you navigated, the way that you um, just figured out what needs to be true for you, and kind of that pivot where you figured out, hey, I need to do something for me and what makes me happy and what will allow me to flourish. And I think
Mhm.
that's so huge when we unlock the way, like unlock our confidence and
Mhm.
unlock our best self, we do our best work.
Yeah.
And I hear that in your story, and it's so evident, and I'm really proud of you. And I'm excited for these kids to unlock their own confidence and unlock their own what's true for them. What do they love? Not what their friends love. What do you love? And that's what you're talking about here. And I'm
Yeah.
really thankful for that and thankful for you. So thank you so
Yeah.
much. One more question I would say, what would you tell your younger self? Uh,
Gosh.
yeah, what would you tell your 8-year-old, 10-year-old self?
I think like the world needs you. They don't need a copy of someone else. They don't need you to try to be someone else. Like you're here, you have a unique set of gifts. Use those because it literally is unique. Nobody else has that. So like the best way that you can kind of serve the world is by doing things that are true to you and following what you really love because like when you love it, you'll find success. Like you will be successful because you love it and because you can do your absolutely best work. So yeah, I think.
Thank you, Lauren.
Yeah.
Very inspiring this morning. Again, very proud of you. Very proud of you. Um, Ava, do you want to round us out this evening? Or it's not evening, it is morning. That's my morning brain. What do you have for us, Ava?
Um, I just wanted to say thank you so much, Courtney and Lauren. I hope you all enjoyed this Brain Candy Lab session of I Want to Be Me When I Grow Up with Lauren Sachs. We love your feedback, so please go to the chat and see our survey link. Our next session starts at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time with our special guest hailing from Australia, Jade Tan Holmes. We'd like to thank Witty and our sponsors, Ring Central, Bank Page, Geico, and our speaker, Lauren. As a reminder, follow us on social at Brain Candy Labs and my own personal YouTube show, Ava Astro, online. Links on the slide. Be sure to check it out, NobleExplorers.com. Until next time, this is Ava Astro for Brain Candy Labs, reminding you to stay curious and don't forget to ask the next best question.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thank you all for joining.
Welcome to BrainCandy Labs. I'm Ava Astro. I can't believe this is our final session. The session today is coming to us from the land down under, how to make your own science video with Jade Tan Holmes. First, some housekeeping. I invite you to turn on your cameras if you wish, to get up close and personal with our speaker. You can switch your view from gallery view to speaker view at the top of your screen. All lines are muted so we don't get too much background noise. As our speaker shares with you, you probably have questions. That's great. Put them in the chat and she'll get to it in a later section. Now let me introduce you to our speaker, Jade Tan Holmes. Jade makes science videos about math, physics, and computer science. In her experience, she has found that a lot of people find these particular areas of science quite hard and unrelatable. So her mission is to make them easy and relatable. Jade not only finds these subjects cool, but very important. And she would hate for people to miss out on them because they have not been exposed in the right way. You can find Jade on her YouTube channel, Up and Atom. Welcome, Jade.
Hello? Hello? Yeah, good?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, great. So, as Ava mentioned, this is about how to make your own science video. So I would like to just start with one alternative introduction. So today, I would like to introduce you guys to the concept of heat convection. So heat convection is a flow of fluid due to density difference, due to temperature, and the mechanisms that this happens are by diffusion and advection. So that's one introduction. Now I would like to test a different one out with you guys. So I hope you can see this. So these are just some empty tea bags. These are just tea bags without the tea in them. And now I'm going to light them on fire. Okay, that one should have gone up as well. But so what happened just now, that was a phenomenon called heat convection. And it's also the same mechanism by which hot air balloons work. Now, I just want to ask you, which of those two introductions did you find more engaging or made you want to know more about heat convection and what was going on? So I can't hear your answers, but hopefully you said the second one with the tea bags, because that's what my whole presentation is based around. So the moral is that when you're making a science video, probably the most important thing is that you have to make your audience care. So, you know, with this heat convection one, it's like, maybe I think it's the coolest topic in the world, but that really wasn't conveyed. And I don't think that the way that it was presented made it sound very interesting. It kind of just made it sound like another science class. Like you can't see the relevance of what the person is talking about. Whereas the second one, it was kind of like, you know, you relate it to hot air balloons and you really show what's happening. And that's kind of the beauty of video, that you can really show what's happening. That brings me to my second point, that when making a video, you show, you don't tell. So it's a very common kind of like journalism and writing technique called show, don't tell, where instead of just saying that something happens, you kind of describe it or use examples. But I think video can take that to the next step, and especially science, because science is very visual and you really can just show people what you want to show them. So, and this doesn't just mean experiments, even though experiments are really good. It also means, you know, you can do animations or simulations or drawings and stuff like that. Yes, and also always keep the audience in mind. So on this board, I have words kind of like mechanism, diffusion, and advection. And today I knew I was speaking to a fairly young audience, so that wasn't very smart of me because, I mean, probably a lot of you haven't really heard of the word advection before. So already I probably lost you there. So yeah, always keep the audience in mind when you're making a video, and try and keep it free from like jargon and stuff like that. Oh yeah, and also make it relatable, like kind of, you know, how I mentioned that it relates to hot air balloons. So it's not just some random science abstract thing. It's kind of like, yeah, okay, I can see that applies to the real world. You know, I want to know more about it. So that's kind of like the very basic tips to how to go about making a science video. I also want to, before I go on too much about that, I want to talk about why you would even want to make a science video. So a huge reason why I do it is because it's really fun. So I don't know, I just think it's so fun to dig into a topic and come up with a way for how to explain it to make it sound really interesting. Because I find with science, a lot, and especially and math as well, a lot of the time you might find it interesting, but it's very difficult to convey that interest. It's like maybe you find heat convection interesting because of the whole hot air balloon thing, but then when you come to try to tell someone that it is interesting, you say stuff like the flow of fluid due to density difference. It's like, you know, that doesn't really sound that interesting to other people. So I think it's fun to try and get inside the heads of other people and be like, what can I do to really make them appreciate this as much as I do? And also just doing experiments and drawing animations and stuff, it's just really fun. It also helps you understand the concept better by explaining things. So say there's a science topic that you're really, really into, you'll find that when you actually try and explain it to someone else and put yourself in someone else's shoes that probably hasn't heard it before, you'll understand it from a lot of different angles, and you'll understand it much more deeply than what you did before you tried to explain it and represent it visually. You'll also learn a lot of really cool skills, like how to do video editing and how to work with cameras and stuff like that. Yeah, and there are also a lot of different ways to make a video. So it's not just presenting. You can do presenting, but you can also do full animations and voiceover. You can make videos. I know that's really popular on TikTok. You can make like music videos. So you can do experiments or animations or something to music, which is really fun. So things to keep in mind when you're making a science video are that the concept is everything. So a mistake that I made when I started doing YouTube was that I thought that the video production needed to be really good. So I thought I had to have the best audio and the best camera and the best animations to be successful. And that was so wrong. So what's important is the concept and the explanation. It's kind of like a multi-million-dollar movie with the best special effects and the best actors and actresses doesn't mean it's going to be a good movie. What's even more important is the storyline and the kind of the essence of the movie. The other things are good, but secondary. So if you do want to start making science videos, you don't need the best equipment, you just need your phone. But yeah, so focus more on the actual concept and what you want people to really get out of what you're doing, and how you can best deliver that. Oh yeah, another thing is to make sure it's a topic that you love. Don't do something that you think people you think will find cool, but don't only do something people think will find cool. Make sure it's something that you love and you're really passionate about, because that will come across. And also making a video, it can be hard. It can be a lot of work if you want to do it really well. So if you really love the topic and you really see why you want to make this video and why you're doing it, you'll really just keep going and go the extra mile, and it will be a great video. And another thing to keep in mind is, why are you making this video? So yeah, like, what do you want to share with the world, or why do you think this video needs to be out there? So I'll just give some practical tips so you can go and start making a video this afternoon or tomorrow if you like. So these days it's easier than ever to make a video because we all have our phones. You know, like 20 years ago, you would have had to be part of a television production or something like that. And now it's kind of like you can literally just film something on your phone, upload it to YouTube or TikTok. You do kind of need, if you're going to be doing voiceover and audio, you do need a pretty good microphone. The phone microphones aren't very good, but you can get a pretty okay one on Amazon for about $30. And you'll need to edit your footage as well. So editing is kind of just like when you have all your footage and you put it together. So if you want to do that on your phone, on iPhone, iMovie is free, and that's a video editing software. And also on Android, there's one called Movie Maker Filmmaker, which is a free one too. So yeah, and there's loads of tutorials on YouTube about how to do video editing and stuff like that. So yeah, if you want to get started, there's really nothing stopping you. You can really just tomorrow start making something. So yeah, that's the end of my presentation.
Awesome. Jade, thank you so much. Ava and I are going to tag team some questions that have been in the chat. And so to start, it says, I have a YouTube channel. Any recommendations for a channel that's already started?
Oh, recommendations as in like advice or? I would say, yeah, so as I said, focus on the content as the most important thing. You don't need to have the fanciest equipment or anything like that. I guess try and find kind of a niche. So try and find a way to make your content different. So a big mistake that I made when I first started making YouTube videos was that I was looking at other people that were successful, like Physics Girl and Veritasium and Vsauce and stuff like that. And I was kind of trying to copy them and be like, well, they're successful, so I'm just gonna do what they did and try and explain stuff they explained and do the topics they did and talk the way they did. And it totally didn't work because people can tell when you're trying to copy or when you're not being genuine. And also if that channel already exists, people don't really, if you're just like a channel number 2, people don't have any incentive to kind of subscribe to you because that channel already exists. So I would say always try and bring something unique, whether that be the topic, your personality, the way you explain something. But the most important things to keep in mind are make sure work on your explanation skills, because if the audience doesn't understand what you're saying, it doesn't matter how funny you are or how good your production value is. If they don't understand what you're saying, they're going to click off the video. So I would say, yeah, work on your explanation skills and try and choose topics that you think other people would be interested in. And if you don't know what kind of topics other people would be interested in, try and put yourself in the mind of someone else watching this video for the first time that's maybe never heard of this topic before. Yeah, and apart from that, it's just like, just keep going because it's a lot. It's hard work. Like, I commend you for starting a YouTube channel. It is hard work, but just keep going and don't give up.
What started your interest in making a science YouTube channel?
So I actually didn't study any science in high school. And then when I went to university, I just kind of randomly chose something, and I chose marine biology. And then during my biology course, we had to take physics in first year. And it was my first time ever being exposed to physics. And I really, really liked it. And so I changed to a physics degree, but then I was really behind because I'd never done any physics in high school. So there was so much that I didn't know. And I basically learned like everything from YouTube. So like, I really think if YouTube didn't exist, I don't know if I would, or it would have been a lot harder to pass my degree for sure. So then I watched a lot of YouTube videos, and I just really appreciated it, you know, because sometimes somebody in a YouTube video would explain something in just this way that I would understand so much better than what my lecturer was. So I really got an appreciation for the power of presentation and just how to explain stuff. And then I took a tutoring job at university, and I guess some of the YouTube people had rub off on me because I was like pretty good at explaining stuff as well. And then when I finished my degree, I just thought, yeah, I just want to do that. I saw like Physics Girl and stuff doing it, and I was like, that sounds like something I really want to do. I really like explaining things. I really like physics concepts, and also I kind of like just learning a lot of things. I don't really like doing anything with the knowledge, if that makes sense. Like I don't like applying the knowledge. I'm just like, I just want to learn the knowledge. So I thought this was perfect because pretty much every video I can kind of just research whatever I want and then share it. So yeah, I guess I got exposed to YouTube in university, and I just really liked the idea.
A lot of questions are kind of around your guide to the multiverse. How did you edit the hard videos, such as the personal guide to the multiverse?
So I do animations as well. So I think the multiverse one, that what was hard about that was the animations. And they're done on an animation software called Adobe After Effects, which is about $50 to $70 a month. So I mean, I can't really say how, because it's like you have to watch hours of tutorials, I guess, to know how to animate and stuff like that. But basically the animation process is that I have an iPad Pro, and there's an app called Procreate on it. It's pretty cheap. It's like $6 or something like that, and it's really, really good. If you're into drawing and art, it's really, really good. So it's just called Procreate. Basically, you can draw anything on there, which is usually where I draw my cartoons. And then I upload them to Adobe After Effects, and that's where you can manipulate them and stuff like that. So yeah, that's very, very advanced. Not to say you can't do it. You definitely can by watching Adobe After Effects tutorials, but it's like, yeah, I can't really explain, I mean, in depth how I did it because it took hours.
Yeah, that's awesome. What a fun skill. Like
it is so fun. I would definitely recommend getting into animating because like you can put a lot of your personality. Oh, that's another thing I forgot to mention with editing, I don't know, I actually find it really fun because you can put a lot of personality into editing. It's hard to explain if you haven't done editing before, but just like the pacing says a lot about the kind of video, the kind of music you choose, whether you don't want music or not. I don't know, if you guys watch TikTok at all, you'll probably notice that like some videos have very different editing styles than other videos, and it kind of adds personality to the video. I don't know.
That's right. We have some other questions of how long have you been doing YouTube, and what makes some of your videos more popular than others?
So I've been doing videos for about 3.5 years. And, you know, that's a really good question. I'm always trying to figure it out. If I 100% knew the answer, I would keep making popular ones. I think I'm closer to getting to the answer. So people, I think, tend to like more demonstration heavy things. So in the beginning, I did very animation heavy topics. And now I've just tried to switch it up with some variety and do more stuff with props and actual physical demonstrations and less animations. And that seems to be working. People seem to really like those things. Also, people seem to love paradoxes. So I think paradoxes are really interesting because they challenge the way you think about something. And I think people love being challenged, or love like the feeling of like, oh, I thought it was this way, but it's actually that way. And like, I can see why, and I've never thought about that before. So my paradox videos tend to do really well. So if you're asking because you want to choose a certain topic, I would say try and choose topics that challenge the way that the viewer thinks, not just explaining something, but actually yeah, actually challenging, or like giving them that like wow moment, or that kind of like what's it called, like when it's like mind blow moment. Yeah, try and find stuff with a mind blow moment. Also, videos that tend to do well are kind of popular topics or well-known topics, kind of like you know, I don't know if you guys have heard, but the Schrodinger equation or like quantum mechanics, they're very popular topics. So that they tend to do better kind of well-known topics more than stuff like just random things that you kind of find interesting. So for example, I did a video a couple months ago that was like why how birds might use quantum mechanics to navigate. And that video didn't do very well. And I think it's because it's really specific. It's kind of like, it's like, I found it really interesting, but like no one's thinking about that, you know? It's like, why would people click on that video kind of thing? Whereas I recently did one that was called Why We Might Use Different Numbers in the Future. And that one did pretty well. And I feel like one's more relatable. People kind of know what that means. Like when they read it, they're like, okay, yeah, like I know what numbers are. Like we use them every day. So I guess so relatable, famous topic, and paradoxes. They would be my 3 pieces of high topic advice.
That's awesome, Jane. But do you have some fun questions you want to ask Jane?
Yeah, Gabriella asked, have you ever made a science video about the human body?
No, I haven't, because I mostly do math, physics, and computer science. So I don't really do much biology, unfortunately. I did some in my marine biology course. I did do some human body biology, but maybe you could make one. Maybe maybe like there's a need for a human body one.
Somebody asked, do you have any science book recommendations?
Ooh, let me think. What's a science book? I guess I'm trying to think age-wise. That's a really good question. Can we come back to that one? Because I have a lot of books, like, but I guess I read more kind of like advanced textbooks, I guess, which I don't really want to recommend. Ooh, okay. One that I think is really cool. Let me just double check the name. Hang on. Okay. One that's really good that will give you a good appreciation of calculus, because I feel like calculus is one of those things in high school that it's always like you learn the rules, but you don't actually know what you're doing. That's what it was like for me anyway. I was like, yeah, I know the product rule, I know the chain rule, but then if someone was like, and you know, you get all right marks on the test and stuff, but then if someone was like, yeah, but what are you actually doing when you're doing calculus? I wouldn't know. You know, when I was in high school, I'd be like, I don't know, I'm just following rules, which is not what you're doing. It's really, really cool. So it's called Infinite Powers. It's by this guy called Stephen Strogatz. And it basically tells you all about like what calculus really is and why it's so cool, and how they came up with it, and also how it applies to the real world. So I feel like in school we never learn how calculus applies to the real world. Like, you know, there's the famous mantra, oh, when am I ever going to use this kind of thing? But calculus is seriously used all the time. Like it was used to make the Shrek movies. It's used to make most animation films that you see. So yeah, I would recommend that one to kind of expand your mind about how the things you learn in school, and especially in math class, are actually useful in the real world and why they were even invented.
My friend Elsa asked, what do you like to do for fun?
I do hip hop dancing. So yeah, I've started doing hip hop dancing because I think it's a really good way. It's like the perfect hobby, because a lot of the time, because I have to think a lot for my job. Like my job is basically learning. So I don't want to do a hobby that you have to think. So I played piano as well, but then I found every time I went to the piano, I'd just be like, I just don't have the mental energy, you know, like to learn something else. And then I really like dancing because you go to a class, the instructor's just like, do this, and then you just like copy what the instructor does, and it's like, yeah, this is so easy, it's good exercise. I like dancing to the music, like it's really fun. It kind of is like a nice meditation or relaxation. So yeah, I really like dancing. That's what I do for fun. Also just stuff like, I really like reading fiction books. So like I really like kind of like escaping into a fiction book. I think it gives really good perspective about the different people's thoughts and the way different people live and stuff like that. And apart from that, just hang out with friends.
Courtney, are there any questions you want to ask?
Yes. So there's some more questions. It says, what's your favorite video and why?
Like my video or just video in
That's
general?
a follow-up question as well. But yeah, what's your favorite video that you've done and why?
Ooh, okay. Let me just take a look. I actually really like the last video that I did, but that to me seems too easy because maybe that's just the last one I remember. I don't know. Oh, no, okay. My favorite video I've done is Russell's paradox. So it's a paradox, and that's about the foundations of mathematics. So for some reason, I find the foundations of mathematics really interesting. I think it's because it's very philosophical and you don't realize. So the foundations of mathematics, it's kind of this whole like, what even is math, you know? It's like, yeah, okay, it describes the universe, but it seems to also be something separate than the universe. Like we can build consistent mathematical models that don't have anything to do with the universe. And it's like, what is that, you know? So in the 19th century, this was a huge question, and mathematicians were trying to figure out like what math was and what the foundations of math was. And a lot of people did some work, and they thought that mathematics was logic. So logic is basically like, you know, if how does it go? It's like Greek, no, well, yeah, you know, logic, like if A then B and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Which kind of makes sense. Like math seems very logical and very rational. So I can totally see why they thought it was logic. And this guy wrote this like whole big book explaining why math was just logic. And then another guy came along and just like asked one question about his book, and it completely ruined his whole system. And basically that's what the video is about. It's about this one question that like ruined this whole system. And I think for me, that was really, really fun to make because I found the topic super interesting. I spent a lot of time on it. And the animations are really, really fun to do. So yeah, I have to say that's my favorite one.
What would you say was your most popular YouTube video?
Which is my most popular?
And why would you say?
My most popular video is the Schrodinger Equation. And I don't know how much you guys know about the Schrodinger Equation, but it's quite famous in quantum mechanics. And it's basically like the equation that describes quantum mechanics. And I think the reason why it's popular is because one, it's a famous topic, like what we talked about. And two, so another thing that I think people really like is when you explain something that's pretty hard in an easy way that they can understand. So the Schrodinger equation is conceptually very difficult. Like it's quantum mechanics, it's this big equation. It's very intimidating just to look at. So I think that people really appreciate when they feel like, oh, I understood this thing that I've never been able to understand before, that I think that I never thought I would be able to understand. So I think that's the reason why it's so popular, because there was this topic that was so intimidating, and then it's boiled down into this kind of 10-minute video where I feel like the audience could understand it. And like I get a lot of comments on that video saying like, wow, this was amazing, and like I finally understood. And you know, you explained a whole semester of quantum mechanics at university better than, or like in 10 minutes better than the whole semester and stuff like that. And I think people really appreciate that. So like, yeah, just making something hard kind of easy and relatable.
Yeah, that's a gift. That is a gift to take a really tough concept and put it into bite-sized pieces for people to understand. So that is a gift that you are doing for the world and putting it in an arena where people go, and it's YouTube. That's a whole other place and platform that people are learning a multitude of things. And so thank you for being a good source of just information that's truth and that can help people figure out things that might be very difficult to understand. So thank you for being that and using YouTube as such a great platform. It's really fun to hear. Someone else asked, do you have other hobbies?
I mean, I guess I would say that dancing is my hobby and reading. Yeah, not really, because as I said, like work is very mentally straining for me, and I feel like hobbies, I don't know, all my hobbies, I'm like, they need to be relaxing hobbies. So like, it's like dancing is relaxing, reading is relaxing, and hanging out with my friends is usually relaxing. But yeah, that takes up a lot of my time. Just those things. So yeah, no, not really. Those are just my hobbies.
Why did you decide to study marine biology?
You know, it's so silly. So after high school, I actually wanted to be a primary school teacher, and I did a semester of primary school teaching at university. But then we went into the schools to actually do like practicals and stuff like that. And the reason why I wanted to be a primary school teacher was because I really like kids. I really like the way they are, like how they're so silly and how they're so kind of raw, and they just say what's on their mind and they kind of just do what's on their mind. And then when we were primary school teachers, when we were actually with the kids, I realized it was kind of our jobs to, I don't know, to enforce rules on them and stuff like that, which like I totally get why that's necessary, but I just didn't really like doing it. So I dropped out of that, and then I kind of traveled around the world for 2 years. And then when I came back, I was like, okay, it's time to go to university, but I really had no idea what I wanted to do. And then I just remembered this time when I was 13, and my friend came over from high school, and we didn't know what to do. So we were like, oh, let's make a board game. And we made this game where you had to answer questions and then you like move forward on the board. And we invented all our own questions, and all of my questions for some reason just had to do with marine biology animals. And I think it's because like, I don't know, I find them really weird and interesting. So I could remember a lot about them. And so when I was deciding what to do for university, I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I seem to be good at remembering stuff about marine animals. So I'm just going to do marine biology. So it was a really, really random, silly decision. But I'm glad, because then it led me to physics, which I never would have chosen. You know, I never would have gone to, like, when I see my teachers from my high school and they ask me what I'm doing and I say I have a physics YouTube channel, they're like, what? That's so weird. Like you were doing all music and art and stuff. And I was like, I know. So like, yeah, it was pretty random.
That's funny. You might have mentioned this, but we have a lot of questions asking, is your YouTube your full-time job? Do you make a living off of these videos that you make?
Yeah.
That's fun.
It's really, really great. I'm really thankful that happened, because that was kind of always, when I went into it, that was kind of always my secret plan to make it my career, but I didn't want to tell people because I was like, I don't know, I just feel like it's so hard, and there's a high chance of it not working out. So I was really happy to see that, oh, it actually can work out, you know, and like it can work out for you and for anyone as well. It's not as impossible as you think.
Yeah. Who was someone that you admired growing up that you can look back and see that they made you who you are today?
That's such a good question. Wow. That's, can it be like not from that long ago?
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone that made an influence on you.
Okay, well, there's this woman scientist called Emmy Noether. She's not famous because she was a scientist around the time that women actually weren't allowed to be scientists. Like, they weren't allowed to go to university and stuff like that. And she kind of just cheated the system by not being paid. She was kind of like an auditor, so like a note taker. So that was the only way she could attend the lessons, by basically taking notes for free. But then she helped out Einstein. She ended up helping out Einstein with some maths, and like she has her own theorem named after her called Noether's theorem. And I just think that that's so inspirational, because like, so she didn't get you know, I guess she got to where she wanted to be against all odds, purely because she just loved it so much and she couldn't see life in any other way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she didn't care about social status, because back then, like, an unmarried woman doing mathematics is like, what are you doing? That's not what women do, you know? Like, she would have just gotten so much backlash, and she just didn't care. She was just like, she just wasn't even a thought to her. She was just like, I'm just doing mathematics. And like, there's a story about her that is kind of, that's like, when she was, so at a point she started to give lectures, that she still wasn't being paid, but some of her, like Einstein and another mathematician, were like, no, like, she has to be giving lectures because she's so good. Like, they really respected her. And it was said that she was holding a cup of soup, and she was so excited explaining all the mathematics and stuff that she was like just spilling the soup all over herself and not noticing or anything. And I'm like, wow, that is like so passionate, you know, like, not even to be so into what you're talking about that everything else is just not even there. So I find her really inspirational, because it's just like, she just put math and what she loves above everything, like above herself. And she just struggled through it, and she just did it. So I think that's really cool.
I have a couple more questions before we wrap up, but I want to ask Ava, do you have any fun questions for Jade?
Yeah. Gabriella asked, in your high school, did you ever learn about the periodical table?
Yeah, I did. I think so.
To remember all of the elements?
No, I never remembered all of the elements. As I said, I didn't really do science in high school. I don't know, but also, I guess you do have to memorize elements and stuff like that for high school tests and stuff. But I would say science isn't really about memorizing stuff. It's more about like figuring stuff out. So it's kind of a shame that schools make you do that. Like, I don't mean to throw shade on schools, but it's kind of like, I don't know. I wish the focus was more on, because like, you can look up elements online. Like, we have the internet now. I don't know why we're being taught like we don't have these things. You know, I feel like the teaching is very behind. Like, okay, like, yeah, okay, maybe, I don't know, 30 years ago you had to memorize elements, but now we literally have phones. Like, we don't need to do that anymore. But so yeah, I never memorized them, but also, honestly, I would be against memorizing stuff. But like, yeah, if you have to do it to pass the test, I totally get that. I did that in university as well. So I never memorized all the elements. Yeah.
I'm out of questions. Courtney, you said you had some?
Yes, so to round out our time, I just have one more question. What would you tell your 10-year-old self now? What would you tell her?
I would say that don't worry, like, everything's going to be fine. Things just work out. Like, if there's something you want to do and you work hard to do it, you can do it. And also, if it doesn't work out, there'll be something else that you want to do and that will work out, you know, like, just like, you'll be fine. Like, any path that you choose, just try your hardest. And, you know, if it doesn't work out, try your hardest at the next thing, and you'll be grateful, because I don't know, whatever you do, just think about whether you'll be happy doing it. And if it's something you'll be happy doing it, just do it. So yeah, and also don't listen to people that tell you like to be safe. Like if you have like a big dream and people, I don't know, you know, something that most people would say there's a very low chance that's happening, like becoming an actress or, you know, not a safe job. I would say don't listen to them, because those kinds of people, they don't get stuff done, you know, like that kind of person has no chance of doing their dream. Whereas just trying to do yours and believing in yourself, that's already, I think, like halfway there. So yeah, I would say just be optimistic and don't worry too much, and just try really hard and believe in yourself.
Thank you, Jade. I'm very inspired, and my heart is filled with just joy. And thank you for just sharing your story. Thank you for just letting us get a glimpse into who you are, and I'm very thankful for that. So thanks for talking to us and sharing your wonderful science experiment. What a fun treat that we got to see that. And thanks for talking to us as you're in Australia. What a gift, what a treat that we got to talk with you today. So thank you again. Ava, do you want to round us? You want to round us out, Ava?
Yeah, wanted to say thank you so much, Courtney and Jade. I hope you all enjoyed this BrainCandy Lab session of how to make your own science video with Jade 10 Holmes. We love your feedback, so please go to the chat and see our survey link. We'd like to thank Witty and our sponsors, Ring Central, Blank Page, and Geico, and our speaker, Jade.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
As a reminder, follow us on social at BrainCandy Labs and my own personal YouTube channel, Ava Astro, online. Links on the side. Please follow Jade at Up and Adam on Instagram. Until next time, this is Ava Astro for BrainCandy Labs, reminding you to stay curious and don't forget to ask the next best question. We hope to see you next year.
Thank you. Thanks, Jade. Thanks, Ava.